teachers, both current and future. Thanks for joining us today on Wandering Middle Eastern Teacher. So as always, I am Abu Laith. So today we have another special guest teacher. Today we have Mrs. Shylo Solano.
Yes. Hello.
Thanks for being with us today.
Of course, no problem.
So first question to get us started, why did you get involved in education and in teaching?
Gosh, I got into it, I think I knew young. I knew pretty young that I wanted to be a teacher. I actually started, I had a lot of childhood trauma that had me in counseling from the time I was 4 till as long as I can remember. And so I was reliant on a lot of volunteers outside of my family who took care of me and provided for me and that kind of thing for a while. So initially, as long as I can remember, up until high school, I wanted to be a counselor, a psychologist. And I took one of those aptitude tests, like what do you want to do with your life when you get out of high school? And it all rang true that I was just good for being a psychologist or counseling. And then I decided I hated research. I hate writing papers. I'm okay at it, but I don't like to do it. I wanted the people. And what I discovered was there was such a parallel, and doing it now, I'm 100% glad I did, with teaching. I can be their counselor. I can be their helper. I can be that volunteer and that consistent in their life without the research and the papers. And in such a different way, I can be in the moment with them. I mean, it's kind of crazy how much counseling I could say I've done over the years. And and I knew that if I was a psychologist, I probably would have a hard time not taking the kids home. I might get in trouble. So teaching ended up being a way better gig.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
I definitely want to come back to that topic of psychology and how it impacts you as a teacher. But we'll stick with one more general question now. So currently, how long have you been teaching and what do you teach?
Okay, I am on my... it's so different because a calendar year is 2 school years.
Right.
So I get I started teaching in 2004.
Okay.
I've had, it's like 17 classes. 8 of them were second grade. And then the rest I've been in 4th grade. All of my substitute experience, I really didn't have any substitute experience. I was hired as a long-term sub. They said, stay. I did my student teaching as a teacher. Those poor first-year kids. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but I've been doing it, almost 20 years. Half my life.
Why did you feel drawn to elementary education?
I don't know. I think it's going to sound, I don't want to sound arrogant, but there is a way I know where people come to me. I know who I get them. Yeah. And I'm comfortable with children. I'm comfortable. I can make them feel comfortable. That's going to sound creepy, but I'm very good at treating them with respect for who they are and bringing them kind of out of their shell and knowing who they are. Adults freaked me out probably a little bit. And at this point, I could probably teach high school. Eventually, I would have liked to teach high school math. But the relationships I have with the littles, I mean, just to watch them see their own potential is amazing. Yeah. And by high school, sometimes they already know it. Sometimes. Right. But elementary but I did know, and I said it, I was definitely built more for the upper elementary than the littles. At church, I work for the 3-year-olds because I didn't want school age. I teach all week, I don't want them on Sunday.
Understandable.
But now I'm like, why am I drawn to the 3-year-olds? These precious little things. I'm just a kid magnet, I think. I don't know. Yeah. It's just very natural.
Yeah, I think a lot of times you just know.
Yeah.
Like for myself, I know I need to be in high school. With elementary school, I would go crazy, and I'd probably drive the kids crazy as well.
Oh, and people say, the common thing, teachers are so patient. Not with my own. Only with a room full of yours. Like it's different being. I don't know. It's not. It doesn't even feel like patience to me when you know what the expectations are. When your students know what the expectations are, you don't need the patience. You just need to love them.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 2021. It's
The year of
a
all years.
whole year of COVID restrictions, changes. How has it impacted you as a teacher?
Gosh.
What things are different in this school year than you've done before?
Oh gosh, when it happened last year, I had, of course, like the best class I've had in years. Right? It was my year to
Of
have
course.
like the ideal. Every teacher's jealous of my class. That was the year I had. And I remember laying on my couch and the news is going and I'm getting texts and I text my parents, my students text me, not through my phone but through an app that we use. And they're texting me and it's overwhelming and upsetting because all these parents are, Mrs. Solano, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? And I'm like, you guys, I'm literally hearing it when you're hearing it. I know nothing more than you know. We get shut down. You leave your room like you ran away on a vacation. Like there's no packing. Their desks are still full. Their art's still on the walls. You're not coming to school tomorrow. Like
It was that
it was
fast?
just like that,
Wow.
and I just sobbed. You know, I cried and I thought, what in the world? And I have such relationships with the kids already, and we were a very close group, and I just I was crushed. But then part of me was kind of like, dude, 2 weeks off, all right. You know, because they said 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, shoot, I'll give you a packet. We'll text. That's cool. And then what I saw when we didn't come back, I was still trying to do all the things that I did on a school day through a computer screen. I had lots of meltdowns. I had lots of my own tears. I couldn't sleep. I started eating like crazy. I was overwhelmed because I wanted to be just as good as I know I am in person. I wanted to be that teacher and still keep the relationship on the computer, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I watched everyone decline. What I've seen this year overall from last spring to now, I've been back on campus a week today.
Okay.
This was my first week back on campus
Wow.
since last March. Well, I came back in November for 2 weeks. We got shut back down. So that doesn't count, right?
Right.
I don't know. So this entire this fourth grade class only knows me on Zoom. And so that's different, right? I think what the main thing I've had to kind of come to terms with is I had to, and this is going to sound terrible, but I had to lower my expectations of myself and then my students. I can't do what I do in the classroom. I cannot walk around and catch those kids who aren't going to admit they don't know what they're doing. I can't read their body language when they're lying through their teeth. Oh, I get it. No, you don't. You know, I can't see those things. I'm reliant on a 9-year-old to say, help me.
Yeah.
And then I can't put my hand on their shoulder and lean on them. And I can't convince them that what I'm saying has love behind it. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, and I've basically gotten to where the beginning of the year I was gung-ho, man. We were online 4 hours, just, we're going to do this. I'm going to do all the subjects and all the things, and you're going to master it just like I've always done. And I had, like, glaze. Kids weren't, I've never, ever had years where fourth graders don't turn in work. They don't submit. I mean, parent involvement, less than ever. What the heck? You're home with them. I'm thinking it's going to be better than ever.
Right.
I'm thinking, man, my kids got built-in tutors with them. It's going to be great. No. They are like, shut it down. It's your job. They do nothing. It is sad. So I've gotten to where, I mean, I reached a point this last quarter where I honestly had 45 minutes you're with me for math, 45 minutes you're with me for reading, not writing, because trying to have 9-year-olds type and revise and edit and go back and have feedback that I cannot do in a timely manner is ridiculous. I basically had to decide what I felt. Who the heck am I? But what I felt is the most valuable instruction you're going to get from me to prepare as much as possible for the wacko 5th grade year you're going to have.
Yeah.
They're not prepared for state tests. But when I cut down the assignments to 2 assignments a day and just said, you're not on screen more than 45 minutes. And then what I did was my afternoon meeting, we're supposed to have 3 meetings with our kids a day. My afternoon meeting was only the kids who had missing assignments. So, man, win-win. Kids were turning in work, things were getting done, and the kids who I saw at noon, I needed to see at noon.
Yeah.
You know, then it became the small group kids I needed to have there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I saw morale go up. I have managed to keep relationships. I don't know why they like me, because I need that in person. I need the body language. I'm very touchy. I'm very, pat them on the back and lean over their desk, and I'm very hands-on. And I'm proud that I found a way to keep relationships with my kids that I didn't think I could do online. I'm discouraged by what they're not going to be ready for when they have to take that state test and they're going to feel unsuccessful. And there's nothing that we can do.
Right.
And I'm trying to tell them, this is your time to show us what you did learn. Don't worry about what you didn't learn.
Yep.
We're all in the same boat. So I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing has been my expectations for myself and then for my students. Yeah. And once I changed them, I wasn't so upset. I wasn't so exhausted. I wasn't trying to recreate the wheel. I also do things much, much more simply than some of the other teachers. Maybe because I'm a veteran teacher and I do things the old way. But I feel like, why are the kids learning all these tech things and still learning how to be a student at home on a computer screen? I took it down to, nope, paper and pencil, take a picture. We're going to keep it very, there's just too much for them to learn this year.
Yeah.
So expectations.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
Everyone survive. And it kind of is just survival mode.
It really is. And as long as they aren't devastated at the end of the school day, they're not devastated at the end of the year, they feel good about the humans they are. Okay, yay, we did all right, guys. We did all right. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Have you found any particular activities that have helped keep students interested even when it has to be over a screen or online?
We do. In the beginning of our day, we always start with 10 minutes of talk time. And that's when it's on Zoom, you have the kids who love to talk. They don't care who's listening. They will unmute for days. But then the others, it's the sweetest thing, will just chat to me privately. And it's their opportunity. And I always acknowledge every little thing they say. Oh, mom's going to get a new job. That's great. Oh, that's great. Oh, look at that puppy. All the things. All the things are a big deal. I make a point to notice the haircut. Comment on all those things. And it's gonna say, again, I don't know how else to say this, but I'm so big on the relationships that I don't think I have a problem doing that over a computer anymore. I think I'm still who I am. My humor is what it is, and I see the kids who they are for who they are, not compared to one another. And somehow I think we've managed to still keep that, and that's huge. If you don't have a relationship with the kids, they're not going to do anything.
Yes.
And my kid, who is, oh, good Lord, help her. She is struggling academically. She has no idea that I'm frustrated. And that's the goal. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
She still can tell me her mommy's having a baby on Saturday because life is all kosher. So I think what I've done to keep it okay is just give the breaks. I still watch their body language. When I know they're done, we stop. Hey guys, go take a break. Go run. Go scream. Come back. And the kid who wants to stay on the Zoom because he just wants to talk to me, I leave the Zoom open and he just talks and talks and talks to me, and that's, I let that happen too. Yeah. Flexibility.
Yeah, really important. In the beginning, you mentioned originally you were thinking more of a counselor psychology route.
Yeah.
So I think this could be something important for a lot of you viewers or future teachers, especially ones who may be working in places where there are students who come in with considerable baggage, emotional baggage, trauma, things that they've experienced in their life. So could you kind of explain, maybe without giving too many details, like a student that stands out in your mind who came in with some real issues, and how you were able to help that person?
I have a couple examples. One student, I think right off the bat, I think one of the things I do, just to background here, is that in the very beginning, I'm a blended family in my house. I'm an ex-wife, and that's why I say I'm an ex-wife. I have a I have a daughter who I never married the dad. I'm a stepmom. I am all the things that y'all are going to tell me you have to work around. Mm-hmm. And I tell them that not to say don't give me excuses, but don't give me excuses. But also to say I can relate. Mm-hmm. I'm there. If you need, honey, if you go to dad's on Wednesdays and you need 2 copies of this, I'll make sure you get that. Mm-hmm. So just starting with the simple of divorce, I have been able to make it. You don't want to make it normal, but it is the reality. I don't want to make it normal. I don't want to make it okay, but I want the kids to know I get it, and I'm just going to roll with it, and we're just going to keep going. We make 2 Mother's Day gifts, mom and stepmom. We do those kinds of things. But I had a student come in I didn't even know, come from a strong Christian family. They were actually my neighbors too. I had the older brother, wonderful. And the little girl comes in. She's a sweetheart. I didn't know there were any issues. So I had no idea. But I kept a journal. I had the kids, we just did a writing, just write every day. And I had said, if you have anything that you want to write today, but you don't want me to read it, fold it in a corner and I won't read it. You can't do that every day because you're not going to get out of writing. But I recognize that there are days when you have something on your mind, but you don't really want me to know, but you got to spit it out. And they would fold their paper, and she was one of those students who would have a folded paper, but then she would come to me and say, can I read this with you? She didn't want me to read it, but then she wanted me to talk about it with her. And it was about her. She said that someone had molested her at some point, and she said, and I think what we'd done is we had talked about, it was probably Thanksgiving time, and I do a big old speech about what to really be thankful for. And I talk about my time at the Jameson Center, which locally here is it's like your halfway house between when you're taken from your parents and you're going into foster care. It's the Jameson Center, and I spent a few months at the Jameson Center when I was young. And so I was talking to the kids about, I went there, and this is where I was, because sometimes parents do this, and they can't do that, and that kind of thing. And I just had mentioned that was kind of my speech. I really give kids way too much information, probably. And she told me about this, and her mom, I was like, oh, honey, and she just stood there, and I just listened to her, and we talked about it, and very casual, very, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna call your mom, nothing like that. Her mom already knew, and her mom came to me crying, like a few days later, and said, she told me what she told you. She's never told anyone, ever. Why did she tell you? I don't know. But I think when I say that I came out of wanting to be a psychologist, I sense it. And I see a predator different than some. I see a hurt different than some. I really, really focus on why are you behaving this way. And believe me, I am tough. I am the mean teacher. I am the one they're afraid to be in my room, but they cannot leave me. I am no joke, man. I'm not we are going to take care of business in here. I'm the tough teacher. But I always look at why they're behaving the way they are, and we talk about it. And then I had another student 2 years ago. Man, it was bad. This kid, emotional disturbed, what's that? Defiance disorder. Couldn't handle no at all. His mom is a train wreck of the same symptoms. Single mom, nightmare. The kid was violent. He cussed me out every day. He came and he ripped up my lesson plans. He called me all kinds of things in class. He would throw things. I had an autistic girl in the class at the same time, and he was mad that she got exceptions, and he didn't. And it came down to the kid. It was like everybody's terrified of the student. Nobody wanted the kid. Why is he even in our district? Get him kicked out. He ended up getting expelled actually the next year. But while I had him, what I 100% believe was when it was just the two of us, he had such a respect for me. And I know I said he cussed me out, but it was only when he lost control of his emotions. When it was us, he could tell me, as he respected that I would tell him why he had to do what he had to do. And you don't get to do whatever you want. And yes, she gets exceptions. But what do you think? Your behavior is normal? Like, this is here's your exceptions. I let you cuss me out. I let that happen. And by the end of the year, everyone, his grandma would come to me crying and praise me for how he still loves school, and he couldn't believe how much he loved school even though he was so hard. And as far as helping him, I helped him see that, and I do believe that because he told me that I helped him see he is a good kid, and he had a good chance, and that not what everyone says about him is true. And I did tell him he has a wicked imagination, a horrid handwriting, can't write, can't spell, speech is messed up, so he couldn't even voice type, just challenging, and a creepy, scary imagination, but very Stephen King. And I told him, I said, you can't be writing this in 4th grade, but man, if you get someone to write what you have in here, it's going to be amazing. You're going to be an amazing author. Something's going to come up. You're going to blow people's mind that you were that kid over here throwing desks, stabbing with pencils, and you're going to be a famous author someday. I just know it. I think I helped him see that he could get past a lot of that. Just other issues, and I have, I'm in a pretty good school district where I don't have a lot of the issues, but I have more and more foster kids, more and more divorced families, more and more free and reduced lunch, all the socioeconomic issues. And I think that I can help them because I get it. I've been there. I can literally say to you, I've been there, been there, been there. I feel you. I really do feel you. And it's not an excuse. I teach them to grow from where they are, not stop and just be done. Does that make any sense? I tend to ramble, but does that make any sense?
That was great. I feel like there's so many helpful nuggets in there for teachers. Just ultimately what you mentioned about just kind of your ability to sense where the students are, what's going on. It's so important. And what you said about just watching their behavior and asking the question of why did they act this way? Not because that definitely is a temptation for teachers. Just you see a kid acting out, automatically this is a bad kid.
This is the trouble kid. This is a behavior problem.
And then it just gets worse from there. If you start with that mindset, then there is really no hope for this kid and really for you reaching this kid. Because if you start, you've already given up on them.
And they know it.
Yeah.
They come into another thing that I think that I've done that made a big deal is, they come with history. Every teacher talks. I mean, I know who's coming into my room before they get there. Okay, I knew this kid was coming. But I mean, I'm pretty straightforward. I'll say, I know what you're coming with. I know what you think I already know about you. And we're gonna nip this right here, right now. I'm straightforward, and I think that, like you said, who is that person? You are 100% different than this one. Do not complain to me or talk to me about this one. You and I are right here. You and I respect you enough to hear you out. You respect me enough to do the same. Don't worry about this one. And having that, I'm comfortable saying, why are you behaving that way? And let's talk about why. Because if you don't even have a good reason, we're going to figure something out. And follow through. I think another way I think I've been a really big help is consistency. There is nothing more these kids need than consistency. I don't care who they are. I don't care if they're well-to-do, happy-go-lucky family, or they're from, they're homeless. It doesn't matter. If we are consistent, they have that one thing, no matter what, they can count on. Even if it's, I have to stand for recess and do my homework every day because I keep not doing it. It's consistent. They trust me. Trust. Huge.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into our final question. Parenting and the relationship with parents is such a huge part of what's involved in teaching, and maybe something that people in education school don't really think about because there are no classes that talk about that.
True.
In your experience in your years of teaching, what are some of the things that you've learned about relating to parents?
I think my very first year, I'm gung-ho, right? We're all just like, I'm going to do it all. I'm going to do all the things. I did these reading assessments on the kids, and I had a low group, right? Low group of 5 kids. So I'm at home, and I'm calling these 5 kids' parents. And I basically say in a nutshell, and who knows how I said it, but I'm pretty sure it came across as, your kid's the lowest reader in my class, so we need to take care of business. And I would never say it that way now. But this mom, still today, her daughter is 23 and married, and says she just thanks God every day that I called her and said it straight up, because she thought, because her daughter was in combo class the year before, she thought her daughter was high and was excelling, and never would have stepped up to her part if I hadn't said it just like it was. So my rash, probably crass way of saying it worked out to be a win. And I've matured in how I say it. But I think that the reason, because I have a lot of parents either have an anxiety to come into my room because, like I said, I'm the tough one. If you see me on the playground, I'm the one that follows all the dang rules. I don't care who you are, don't do that. So they think I'm the mean teacher. So parents are like, I don't want her, she expects so much. They come in my room, and I think that from the very get, I'm honest about who I am. I say very clearly, this makes me nervous, I don't want you hanging out in here, but you're welcome in here. You know, like, don't come in here and just huddle and watch me. If you come in here, I'm going to put you to work. You know, I am honest. I'm so honest with them. I tell them, this is what your kid's doing. He's lying to you. He's doing this, he's doing that. But I look him in the eye, and we can laugh, and we can be real. I speak very casually, not super professionally, I guess, because it's more relatable. I think the more, and I also I open up to my students quite a bit more than a lot of teachers do. They have a very big wall, and I really do find that wall doesn't do anyone any good. My parents end up loving me, even if we don't get the highest test scores of their life. They come away with life knowledge. They come away with a better relationship. They come away with an understanding of where their kid really is. Nothing's sugar-coated.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing those experiences. I think that'll really help future teachers and current teachers as they try to figure out, one, how to survive this period of COVID. Hopefully we're on the decline and the world is getting a little better. But some long-term things as well. Hopefully you heard that theme of how important relationships are. Relationships in the community with the students, with parents. That really has to be the first priority. Because without that, it really doesn't matter, any of the learning.
No, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to. You won't have any support.
Yeah. Stay tuned next time on Wandering Middle Eastern Teacher for even more teacher interviews and insights and experiences. Have a good day.